Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we're checking out Franz Ferdinand, Take Me Out, and the New Rock Revolution. Your British canon.
The British indie disco has had a long tradition, dating back to the days of Orange Juice and New Order, through the Stone Roses and Happy Mondays. It was guitar pop that moved you, that you could dance to. But after the death of Britpop in 1997, there was little to groove to. You can sway and sob to Coldplay. You can do a hyperactive pogo to the Libertines. But you can't dance. In 2004, Franz Ferdinand reignited this shimmying fire by again colliding jangle and funk. And they did so with the best love as a battlefield metaphor, this side of Pat Benatar. This is New British Canon, and this is the story of Take Me Out.
Okay, first of all, I didn't know they were British. For some reason I thought they were German. I guess because the name Franz Ferdinand? Not that that's German, but Franz seems German. I do remember this song, Take Me Out, from the early 2000s, right? Because of the video. And it has a really catchy guitar riff. Na, 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 na. And it did kind of start like this retro, I guess 60s kind of sonic thing. But I don't know anything about the band. I really don't know their other songs. I think they had another song that found its way to me called Do You Wanna? I think it's funny that they said Britpop died in 1997. I think he's referring to the Radiohead album OK Computer. But yeah, that's something I've noticed about British rock is there is a dancey thing to it. More so than in America. I think that came out of in the north of England there was this 60s soul wave. Like in the late 60s, they got really into soul music, dancing. And then in the 80s and 90s, that turned into raves. Dancing. Anyway, be sure to go to Trash Theory and like and subscribe. Tell me more. Franz Ferdinand, An Introduction, 1992 to 2003, The Yummy Fur, A Vodka Fist Fight, and Darts of Pleasure. Song Darts of Pleasure by Franz Ferdinand. 1992?
Franz Ferdinand formed in Scotland in 2002.
Oh, they're Scottish.
Within the interconnected Glasgow art school scene. Singer and guitarist Alex Kapranos had been a fixture of the scene since the early 90s, booking shows and playing
I missed it. What was his name again? Alex Kapranos. Oh, okay.
Had been a fixture of the scene since the early 90s, booking shows and playing in various bands, from the jazzy film noir lo-fi of the Kalia, to the antsy ska revival of the Amphetamines.
Amphetamines. That's a good name.
He and future Franz drummer Paul Thompson met when they were both playing in the John Peel approved The Yummy Fur in 1997. However, the amount...
Whoa. I have to hear that again. That's obscure. I'm surprised that didn't go to number one.
However, the amount of success these projects had was very limited. I was about to give up before this started. I didn't have a proper job or anything. I didn't know what I was going to do. I was just starting to think it was a bit fruitless. I really wasn't enjoying making music much.
That's a pretty typical mindset for a musician starting out. Project's not going anywhere. Yeah.
Starting to think it was a bit fruitless. I really wasn't enjoying making music much. Nearing 30 years old, as one last ditch attempt to make a life out of music, Kapranos decided to form a new band and went about collecting members with similar ideals. Kapranos met Bob Hardy at a party via an ex-girlfriend. Hardy was not a musician, instead an art graduate. But after an argument over the essence of art, Kapranos convinced him to join his new band and taught him how to play bass.
How good of a bass player could he be?
Kapranos convinced him to join his new band and taught him how to play bass. The last piece of the puzzle was Nick McCarthy. Having studied piano and jazz bass at the Munich Conservatoire of Music,
Why isn't he the bass player?
McCarthy moved to Glasgow and met Kapranos at a party after trying to steal his vodka and getting into a scuffle. After the punches had been thrown, McCarthy would become the band's second guitarist. The group got their name after a discussion about a racehorse called the Archduke, which led them onto the subject of the Archduke Franz Ferdinand,
okay.
the man whose death triggered World War I.
Right.
And liking their alliteration, they took his name for themselves, which further fueled their ambition. I like the idea that if we become popular, maybe the words Franz Ferdinand will make people think of the band instead of the historical figure.
Kinda.
Musically, Franz Ferdinand were kicking back against the indie bands they saw around them, with obscure reference points, overindulgent compositions, and a Fool-esque need to be avant-garde. With a focus on writing actual songs with pop choruses, the essence of the Franz Ferdinand manifesto would be music girls can dance to. It seemed ridiculous that you go to a club to dance, and a gig to either stand around with your arms folded or mosh about, throwing yourself violently into others. Bands were just playing to other blokes and bands, knowingly cross-referencing each other's music, but never playing any tunes. We wanted to change that. We wanted to make people dance.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to the late 90s. Yeah, most people just stood around. There was usually a mosh pit right in front of the stage, but everybody else is just kind of standing there, maybe nodding their head, but not really dancing. Interesting. I feel like back then dancing was like, that's like dorky, you know? These guys are like, no, dance.
Putting their own separate spin on the parallel New York dance punk scene, Franz Ferdinand were taking the electronic disco of Giorgio Moroder and playing it as a flesh and blood rock band. They would soon get compared to the angular post-punk groups like Gang of Four, Wire and Joy Division. But their true forefathers were a lot more Scottish. The funky yet jangly postcard record bands like Orange Juice,
Dancy.
and Joseph K.
That sounds exactly like Franz Ferdinand. Okay.
As well as pop oral signees, the Fire Engines.
That sounds like them too.
The Franz Ferdinand look was also important, brushing off the casual jeans and trainers of the post-Britpop set, instead going with razor-sharp side partings, self-tailored dress shirts, and pointy shoes. Even their clothes were angular. By May 2003, word had gotten around to the nation's A&R men, who were trying to sign this danceable new band.
Yes, get a bidding war going.
Though courted by majors, the band went with independent label Domino, mostly
Smart.
due to owner Lawrence Bell's unshowy tactics. Lawrence had a totally different attitude from all the other labels. He never said he'd buy us some big fancy meal. He cooked us dinner instead. We liked him, and we liked his ideals.
Yeah.
The label would release the Darts of Pleasure EP in September 2003. Which would give the band their first taste of national music press exposure. Music critics obsessed with the title tracks, all in German, Chant Coda, written by the formerly Munich-based McCarthy.
Is that why? That's why I thought they were German. Ich habe super fantastisch. My name is super fantastic. That's so interesting, isn't it? What a choice.
German, Chant Coda, written by the formerly Munich-based McCarthy. It would peak at number 44 in the UK singles chart.
Pretty good.
But it would be the band's second single that would realise Kapranos' dream of a career in music.
So if you're lonely, creating Take Me Out, 2003, Tori Johansson, Enemy at the Gates, and the Beatles. Song Take Me Out.
For their debut album, Franz Ferdinand relocated to Malmö, Sweden, to record with Cardigans producer Tor Johansson. He had been impressed with the quality of their demos, in spite of their lo-fi nature. The
What a difference. I gotta hear that again.
The demos had been recorded very simply in rehearsal rooms and kitchens, so they were very rough, but they worked well. The album is just kind of a luxury version of that.
That's good. You don't want the demo to sound really good, because then you just want to use the demo, and you're chasing the demo when you do the high quality recording.
While the short story Punk Storm of Jacqueline
It's always better on holiday. So much better on holiday.
I love how they use distortion on the vocals. I feel like that was not as common. Well, the Strokes did it in like 2000. The Strokes came through a studio I was working at to do a live show for a radio station. They played like 5 or 6 songs. And when it was being mixed, they brought their own engineer. They used an Avalon 737 mic pre, which is a tube mic pre, and they cranked it. They drove it like a guitar amp to get the distortion on the vocals. It sounded cool.
The fluid sexuality of Michael. And the bitter cynicism with starry eyes of The Dark of the Matinee.
You will find me in the matinee, the dark of the matinee. It's better in the matinee.
Would all win the band favour. Take Me Out, with its defiant start-stoppedness, was always going to stand above.
What a video, too.
Surprisingly, the concept for the song came from Kapranos watching the 2001 sniper thriller Enemy at the Gates,
Really?
wherein Jude Law's Soviet marksman faces off against Ed Harris's Nazi sharpshooter in a duel to the death.
It was okay, not a bad film, but this image of the two snipers left quite an impact on me. It felt like a very good metaphor for the kind of romantic situations that we sometimes find ourselves in, where you both know that you're into the other, but nobody wants to kind of like expose their vulnerability
right.
and make a move and let the other know how they feel.
Right.
If you're lonely, you know I'm here waiting for you.
And so I could write, so you can't really tell, what am I talking about here? Am I talking about snipers, or am I talking about some kind of romantic situation?
I'm just a crosshair,
Okay, it's making sense.
just a shot away from you.
With the help of this metaphor,
Huh.
Kapranos captures the very complicated emotion of wanting to take that chance on love, but not wanting to leave yourself exposed to hurt and rejection.
That's a great metaphor. It's weird because when you're into someone and you've made a connection already, you like to think that you can transcend the game. And if you just tell them how you feel, they'll be like, oh, cool, I feel the same. Blah, 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 and you start making out or whatever. But it doesn't work like that. Because once you show somebody that you're into them, it like changes everything.
I move, this could die. I move, this could die.
But doing so in so very few words, cutting to the heart of the matter.
I want you to take me out.
And the production and music follows the same mindset, remaining as uncluttered as possible. When we're recording, we remove everything that's irrelevant or unnecessary. Why play a chord when you can play one note? Musically, the song's bravado triumph is the self-assured swing between the simplistic, strokes-alike verses
And if you leave here, you leave me.
and the disco stomp of its chorus.
I want you to take me out.
But the two sections' difference in tempo would prove an issue.
When we first wrote it, we couldn't get the tempo right. The verses sounded better played a little bit faster, and the choruses sounded better played a little bit slower, and we could never quite work it out. And then one day I had this idea that, right guys, we're going to take all the verses, put them at the beginning of the song. Then we're going to slow down and play all the choruses.
Take me out.
Which is kind of the wrong way to do it, but it kind of
No.
works in that song.
It does work. I remember when I first heard it. I don't remember when I first heard it, but I remember feeling like When it slows down, it's like, oh, it's like getting serious down into it, you know? Like we're getting funky.
Despite the difficulties involved in changing between two separate tempos mid-song, Franz Ferdinand had played Take Me Out enough by this point. They were able to record the song live, no problem, with no post-production cut and pasting required. The song's infinitely hummable main guitar riff was inspired by blues player Howlin' Wolf, and especially the way he would sing to his guitar, and the guitar would sing back, in the form of emotive lyrical licks.
Tune that guitar.
Its catchy, danceable beat contrasts with the depressive subject matter, but as Kapronos states, that contradiction is an essential hallmark in classic pop music. To most people, it feels like this great life-affirming song, but it's using a metaphor of shooting each other for the end of a relationship. I was watching the Beatles anthology recently, and they were singing I'm Down.
How can you laugh when you know I'm down? How can you laugh when you know I'm down?
You watch them shaking their heads, and the audience is screaming. It was amazing. The lyrics are saying, I'm down, but the music is saying, I'm up, you know? This awkward yet danceable collision of Enemy at the Gates, post-punk, Howlin' Wolf, Giorgio Moroder, and the Beatles' pathos should be a mess, but instead is iconic. Someone said, God, that song works even though it does everything a song shouldn't do. It changes all the time and slows down as well. But that's exactly what we wanted. To create that lurching feeling you get when you go on a roller coaster and your stomach falls away.
I didn't realize there was so much thought put into this one song. You say you don't know the new rock revolution, 2003 to 4, Jools Holland, Milkshake, and Weird Al Yankovic? Weird Al Yankovic did a version.
In November 2003, the British public got their first chance at experiencing the disco rock of Take Me Out, when Franz Ferdinand performed on the Jools Holland show. UK radio stations.
Is that live? I love the way the snare drum sounds.
UK radio stations and music television soon picked up on the song. So by the time the single was released on the 12th of January 2004, it went straight in at number 3 on the UK chart.
Nice. Top of the pops, okay.
Denied the top spot by All This Time from talent show winner Michelle McManus. And Milkshake by Khalees.
My milkshake brings all the boys to the yard, and they're like, it's better than yours. Damn right, it's better than yours.
I feel some
She's a wonderful person. She had a dog named Harlem, this little pug.
It's better than yours. Damn right, it's better than yours.
I feel some sense of achievement that we went for an independent label. That we're 4 guys totally removed from the pop music industry machine.
Sort
we don't
of.
have stylists. We write our own songs.
That
we
is
play
true.
our own
That's great.
instruments.
Yeah,
we do
that's
things
great.
completely on our own terms. Yet we managed to get into the top 3 of the charts. We managed to take on that industry. And to me, that's really gratifying.
Good.
You don't have to be a sellout. Their self-titled debut arrived in February.
Yeah, that is a big achievement. I'm surprised the major labels didn't try to quash the single, you know? Sometimes if you deny those major label people what they want, you've created an enemy. They won't just let you float away and do your own thing. They want to take your booty. I mean that in a pirate sense, not your actual, but although sometimes they do that, dude. Music industry is really messed up. Don't get into it.
You don't have to be a sellout. Their self-titled debut arrived in February, also charting at number 3, and remaining in the UK charts for 82 weeks.
What?
Its other 2 singles, The Dark of the Matinee and Michael, both going top 20. Not
Ah.
only did the public have Franz fever, so too did the indie press. Sid drowned in sound, piece everything together, and this is where your mouth might, quite rightly, start to draw a little. This is only the beginning, and it's a bloody good start. The album went on to win the Mercury Music Prize, went up against tough
All right.
competition from The Streets, Amy Winehouse, Snow Patrol, and Belle and Sebastian. The single was a shot in the arm for the UK guitar and music scene, but also the NME. Since the downfall of Britpop in the late 90s, the magazine had, the libertines aside, very few reasons to be excited about British music. There was the wet acoustics of Coldplay, Athlete and Keane, and flirtations with poptimism, but the majority of front covers were still going to American acts. Take Me Out proved that UK's post-punk revival could be just as populist and marketable as The Strokes, Interpol and Yeah Yeah Yeahs. New British talent like Block Party, Kaiser Chiefs, The Futureheads, Maximo Park, Arctic Monkeys, Klaxons, Two Door Cinema Club, and the pseudo-Brits, The Killers, would emerge in the aftermath. A new wave.
Wait, what? The Killers came after Franz Ferdinand? I was thinking these guys kind of sound like the Killers, but maybe the Killers kind of sound like these guys. Show me your Apple Music. The Killers. What year did their first album, Hot Fuzz, come out? Hot Fuss, excuse me. Got it mixed up with that. 2004? Same year? Yeah, I feel like the Killers were heavily influenced by the Strokes. And I don't... They only have mentioned the Strokes once in this video, but I feel like they were mentioned by, they were influenced by the Strokes. Or the Strokes at least helped open the door to American audiences for them.
And the pseudo-Brits, The Killers, would emerge in the aftermath. A new wave of British guitar pop, with pop ceasing to be a dirty word. You can label Smells Like Teen Spirit whatever way you want, grunge or rock or alternative. But essentially, that's the greatest pop song of the 90s.
Yeah, it is poppy.
That has been, for me, one of the greatest tragedies in recent years. This idea that if you position yourself outside the mainstream, then you can't play a pop melody. Oftentimes, the band will get hyped in the UK, and that will translate to nothing but disappointment across the Atlantic. See, for example, the majority of the New British Canon series. But Franz Ferdinand's album went platinum in the US, making its way to number 32 on the Billboard 200. Take Me Out would hit number 3 on the alternative chart, and 66 on the Hot 100. Franz Ferdinand was symbolic of a shift in what alternative radio meant. Instead of the traditional nu metal, pop punk, and Red Hot Chili Pepper songs, danceable indie rock was starting to trend. The moment would soon pass, but other similarly groovy guitar pop alternative smashes would follow in Take Me Out's example.
Oh yeah, a lot of smells, right? That's almost a right-on rip-off right there. GMT. Okay, yeah, I hear it.
The quality of Take Me Out itself was shown by the diverse selection of artists that have covered it since.
Scissor Sisters? Wow.
I say, don't you know? You say,
I like that.
I move, this could die. Eyes move, this can die.
Oh.
I say, take me out.
But
I love
despite it
Weird
being
Al.
played almost to exhaustion, both by radio and the band itself, Kapranos still loves it.
You hear stories about bands
Good.
resenting songs that they've written in the past because they have become popular, and to me that just seems absurd. If you're sick of playing the song, just don't play the song anymore and don't moan about it.
Yeah.
It's a good song to play. I
Yeah.
like it.
Take Me Out endures in
good song.
indie discos the world over as a latter day Come On Eileen. Its opening notes ring out to signal you have less than a minute to get to the dance floor before moves must be busted. It more than exceeded the band's expectations. To this day, Franz Ferdinand is still making indie fans get up and dance,
Nice.
and motivating them to take that shot. Thanks for watching. So is Take Me Out your go-to indie disco staple? Or do you have another
It might be
favorite?
now.
Let me know by commenting down below.
Y'all be sure to go to Trash Theory and like and subscribe. This was great. I think I like that song even more. It was a one-hit wonder to me, but now I see that they're actually pretty influential. I didn't know all those covers were done about it. Of this song. That's crazy. I do remember back in 2004, I was an audio engineer. I still am, but at the time I was working at a recording studio in Atlanta, and I remember this song being important. Like the video would come on the TV in the studio and we'd check it out. And I remember it being one of those things where, I wish I did that. Like, you can do that? Damn, why didn't I think of that? It was that kind of feeling. I feel like at the time, most of the local bands that were coming into the studio wanted more of the post-grunge, like, shiny, Creed type Nickelback sound. And I wasn't really into that. I like the more retro stuff, like this. Anyway, this is great. Be sure to go to Trash Theory and like and subscribe. And if you made it this far in the video, maybe give me a like and subscribe, right? I'd like to thank my patrons on Patreon. I'd like to thank my Buy Me a Coffee folks. Thank y'all for watching this with me, and I'll see you next time. Later.